What the hell is this thing? Is the RFK Jr. cooking show? Okay, Pernia, the only reason this possibly could exist, the only reason this possibly would have any need to exist, is if the President of the United States needed to tell everybody that groceries were too fucking expensive and it was probably, likely, very much his goddamn fault. Okay, sure, why not? What are we doing? Yeah, let's cook some roadkill.
We talk about seafood a lot because I'm a seafood junkie, and one of the things that actually drove me into the restaurant industry was understanding people need to eat more seafood and more of the right types of seafood. The thing about the new dietary guidelines, I know...
Okay, so who is this? Who is this? Andrew Gruel. I've no idea who Andrew Gruel is. Whomst the fucketh are you? Celebrity chef Andrew Gruel. He's a TV personality and politician based in Orange County, California. Okay? How much you want to bet, Republican? How much you want to bet? Let's see here. Personal life. Hosted a culinary show called Cooking with Gruel. He co-hosts the SoCal restaurant show in KLAA. On March 18th, 2025, Gruel was appointed to fill a vacant seat in Huntington Beach County Council that was previously held by Tony Strickland, who was elected to the California State Senate. Okay. Cooking style, cooking restaurant. So he's got 2 birds, Butterleaf, Calico Fish House, member of the Huntington Beach County for City Council for the at-large district. He's the incumbent. Okay, so nothing about his political leanings, but he's doing a show with RFK Jr., so I'd have to assume that. Straight talking leadership, hands-on problem solving. Nothing of interest yet, but let's see here. Huntington Beach Council, re-elect. I want to know the issues. Let's see here. Let's take a look at the issues. Law and order, open for business, community parks, accountable finances, local control of housing. Law and order isn't about politics, it's about quality of life. To me, that means families feel safe working on the beach in and around 78 parks. Cities built on tourism, entrepreneurship. Okay. Support for local law enforcement. I mean, that's every politician ever. Let's see. Safe streets and beaches, residents and visitors. That means enforcing laws and ordinances that keep parks and beaches, public spaces clean and safe. Addressing illegal encampments response. That's a red flag. Okay, so that one shouldn't read like a red flag, usually, but as somebody that's done a lot of research on the hostile architecture problems, this reads like that. Because what is considered an appropriate response to a homeless encampment tends to vary from politician to politician. But if you make it a part of your platform, it's usually because you're a hostile architecture kind of guy. Let's see here. Reduce reckless e-bike behavior that endangers families and seniors. Reducing reckless e-bike behavior. Are you a snob? Like, people on fucking bicycles bothers you? Okay. I support consequences for repeat offenders and the revolving door approach to theft, vandalism, and assault. When laws are not enforced, behavior escalates. End the revolving door approach to theft, vandalism, and assault. Okay, so he's one of those cucks that doesn't like looking at the reason. Like, based on this alone, I would assume he doesn't like looking at the actual root cause of crime and instead just wants to be harder on crime. So there's been a series of people illegally modding their e-bikes to be motorcycles. Yeah, but if it's already illegal, then what's he gonna do? Make another law about it? See, standing up to state policies that undermine local public safety. It depends on what those policies are, but coordinate with county and regional partners to restore accountability. Yeah, this is just, I'm hard on crime. A pro-business approach to law and order. There's a lot of law and order in here. Community, accountable finances. I believe in balanced budgets, long-term financing, avoiding unfunded mandates and risky obligations, saying no when spending doesn't deliver value. City Hall should manage the money the same way families and small businesses do. No, they shouldn't, actually. Because small businesses can't afford loss leaders, but the government 100% needs to actually have loss leaders. The government itself is not a for-profit business, whereas a small business is, by its definition, that. Okay, so this seems like somebody who tries to bill themselves as a moderate, but they're on the show with RFK, so...
You focused on, which was really huge for me, was getting people to eat more seafood because our seafood consumption is so low.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS secretary. Welcome to the Real Food Show. Thanks to President Trump, we flipped the food pyramid.
Yeah, he's definitely a fucking Republican. You don't suck Trump's dick in the beginning of this at all unless you are a fucking Republican. Okay. Said we flipped the food pyramid. What does that mean?
And put real food back where it belongs, at the center of the American plate. I'm traveling across America, connecting.
So, on the one hand, the food pyramid has always been bullshit. Like 100%, the food pyramid's always been stupid. Like, you can literally look up right now how inaccurate the food pyramid is as a set of guidelines for actual nutrition. But I don't think that I'm going to be getting the vibe from him that we're going to be getting anything great after that point. Jessica Davis says, really? Yeah, you didn't know that? Like, the food pyramid's known to promote a very, very bad formula that overemphasizes carbohydrates and demonizes fat. It was released by the USDA in 1992, and it was mostly built because of the agricultural lobby that wanted to sell sugar and milk. That.
With renowned chefs to show families how to cook delicious, nutritious meals with real ingredients and all at affordable prices. America, it's time to eat real food. Let's get cooking.
Yeah, again, this is the only reason that you make a show like this is when you know that America's in a recession and you're trying to make households have propaganda that tells them that it's actually all A-okay. Like, I'm sure that the problem for, like, the family that has the one guy working overtime and the one girl working two jobs trying to support their kid, I'm fairly certain that that household that is barely stringing together shit because their minimum wage jobs combined do not make up enough for their fucking rent. I'm fairly certain that that family is not running into the problem of, oh, we just don't know how to cook properly. It's mostly the fact that they don't have the fucking time.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS secretary, and we're
You already said that. You edited that. You could have edited that out. You already fucking said that.
here for the first episode of the Real Food Show. And I'm here today with Chef Andrew Gruel at his home in Huntington Beach, this beautiful kitchen. And he's going to show us how to cook wild Alaskan salmon at an affordable price. So
$5 per serving. So you know that it takes about 2 servings of salmon to fill most people who are adults. Because a serving of salmon is what, 230 calories? Right? Let's see here. How many calories in a serving of salmon? Okay, 412 calories. Sorry. That is for a 0.5. So 0.5 fillet, 100 grams. Okay, I see. What is a serving tends to be different depending on what you're looking at. So a 3-ounce serving of salmon is 177 calories. 100 grams is 208 calories. So that's closer to what I was thinking. And then the 0.5 fillet, so 198 grams is 412. So what about wild Alaskan salmon is affordable? Not fucking anything.
the servings of each of these, we asked to keep it under $5. And one of the things that we're going to do,
You do realize that when you're making food for a family, a serving being under $5 means fucking nothing. Your children, they're likely eating 2 servings worth of at least half of the plate. You're stressed. You're probably eating a serving and a half or 2 servings of the plate because you're fucking stressed. That the calculations start looking real weird for you at that point.
is talk about the dietary guidelines during the course of the show and how you can eat the highest quality food in this country at a very, very affordable price. Oh, Andrew, what are we going to do today?
Okay, well,
God, he fucking vibrates. Look at it. This is... I'm sorry. This does not seem like a guy who's well. Look at his face as he turns around.
Very, very affordable price. Oh, Andrew, what are we going to do today?
Okay.
He sounds like he's going to fucking die.
Okay, well, this is about taking ingredients that everybody already knows. It's approachable. You can get them at any store and maybe manipulating them a little bit with a couple chef tricks, but nothing overly intellectual so that we can get that flavor that's memorable. It's sticky. It's addictive. What I found as a chef is that people are so obsessed and addicted to processed food because it's chemically built to be addictive. But with a few simple ingredients that are fresh
So, by chemically built to be addictive, you mean that it is high in salt, fat, and sugar, things that our bodies naturally crave. When you say chemically addictive, it sounds uber duper spooky, and while it is technically true, the reality is the addictive part of most foods is the sugar, salt, and fat.
Fresh and whole and real, we'll be able to fulfill that same effect utilizing one of our bounty items in America, which is our seafood. I talk about this often. So we've actually got right here
a bounty item in America, unless you're in the Midwest, I guess.
These are our wild Alaskan sockeye salmon fillets. Now, these were frozen. I'm an
Okay, so $9 for 4 servings. Okay. So, again, a serving and a half of that is likely what you're going to need per person, unless it's a kid, in which case it's going to be a higher helping likely, because they tend to be ravenous as all hell. So, if the goal was to have this at $5, the goal has already been fucked.
Advocate of actually using frozen seafood, because the way in which they flash freeze seafood now on the boats in modern technology, it's better than fresh in some cases, right? 95% of all seafood that's used for sushi in the United States is frozen. So if you think about sushi being the freshest and it's frozen, that freezing kills the parasites. It's a good thing. But more importantly, it's cheaper when you buy it frozen.
So he's actually right about that. Like, that information is at least true.
In addition, you can even buy this in the can, or you don't even have to use salmon.
Okay, if you get it in the can, it's more expensive. I will say this. When you say per serving for the canned salmon, there's a problem here, and that is that generally, Jessa says, doesn't freezing preserve parasites? No, freezing can just fucking kill them. Like, it doesn't preserve the parasites. They're not fucking Captain America. They die in ice, depending on the parasite. But, again, that said, canned foods, canned meats are usually twice as expensive as non-canned meats.
You can use any other seafood. You can use shrimp, sablefish, black cod. I mean, any other type of American caught seafood, and you're still going to be able to utilize this recipe. So I start off.
And if you get it in the can, it's actually going to be cheaper than $5.
Yeah, much cheaper. Yeah, much cheaper. And nowadays, you've got a diversity of seafood that you can get in a can, from sardines, even abalone, right? They're starting to farm abalone in a responsible manner. So you could use abalone if you wanted to in this recipe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to...
Fez says whatever parasites could survive will die in the cooking. If you're doing sushi, there's no cooking usually, though.
I'm going to start by just lightly, and this is where people get confused when they're cooking seafood, is they get, what do I do, right? I'm so scared of seafood, it's going to...
Why are you scared of seafood? Plop it on the fucking grill, or throw it in a pan with butter. Or put it in a rice cooker, or put it in a coffee pot. I'm not even fucking shitting you. Make some brine water, put a little soy sauce in there, throw it in a fucking coffee pot, and then set that shit to brew, and it will steam your shit. Like, there are so many ways to do fish.
If you're a beginner, right, and you're just kind of in that elementary level cooking seafood, just start off with a roasting pan, right? Start off with a roasting pan and a good extra virgin olive oil, or you can even use a beef tallow or an avocado oil. It's neutral.
I love how instead of going to like vegetable oil, which is the cheapest one, we need olive oil, which is expensive compared to vegetable oil. We need avocado oil, which is more expensive. Or we need beef tallow, which is also expensive. But regular fucking vegetable oil that has the same fucking nutritional value, nope, can't do that one. We gotta run the beef tallow thing. We gotta run the beef tallow thing.
And it's not full of all those seed oils. And all we're gonna do is just...
The seed oils! Seed oils aren't a fucking problem, you goddamn moron!
Hit it with a little bit of sea salt, and we're gonna hit it on both sides with this fat, and we're gonna throw this into a 400-degree oven just to gently cook the seafood. As I step through this recipe, I wanna show you a few tricks and show the viewers some tricks that these are ways in which you introduce flavors, addictive flavors, into your food without...
Add sugar. That's what you add sugar. You add sugar, you add salt, you add fat. You've already put oil on there. You've already added salt on there. That's what you do.
Increasing either the cost or adding chemicals. So fresh herbs are key for me. So I'm always going to be using fresh herbs at every step of the way.
$2 per serving of the herbs. Per 4 servings of the herbs. I'm sorry. That's really goddamn expensive, you moron. Dried herbs are going to be $1.44 at Walmart, and they are going to last you 20 to 30 meals. That is 8 cents a serving. What the fuck are you doing?
Way when I'm cooking it. In this case, I'll just throw some thyme on there because that'll perfume it as we stick it in the oven. And then that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to throw this into a 400-degree oven, and we're going to cook.
Like, here's the thing. The actual words he's saying about how you make the food taste better, these are correct words. But if the goal is affordable, then they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Cook it until it's fully cooked, about 8 minutes. And from there,
Old Gus says,
and
fuck you, gardens are a thing, you out-of-touch assholes. Not for apartment Americans. And there's a lot of Americans who are apartment Americans.
And we're going to put it together. So with the salmon we cooked, and now we've got one here that's already been cooked and cooled. So that's all you're going to do is you're going to cook it and you're going to cool it. Now, we talk about seafood a lot because I'm a seafood junkie, and one of the things that actually drove me into the restaurant industry was understanding people need to eat more seafood and more of the right types of seafood. The thing about the new dietary guidelines I know you focused on, which was really huge for me, was getting people to eat more seafood because
Can you stop saying fucking seafood? I swear to God, you've been on TV, right? You've been on TV. You have other words. You have other words you can use to describe what seafood is. You could say fish. You could say the kind of fish. So many things you can do. And seafood. Oh my fucking God. I'm going to ram my head into drywall.
our seafood consumption is so low. We have this omega-3 deficiency, DHAs, selenium, zinc, iron, all of the necessary vitamins that would be in seafood are not in our diets because our per capita consumption is 18, 19 pounds per person. Alternatively, Japan is 50, 51 pounds per person, and
this information is true. We are actually right on this one. These are foods that are good for you. That part is true information.
Have no metabolic disease, some of the longest, health span, etc. So, what are your thoughts in regards to the ways in which we get seafood in our diet, or why there's such a deficiency?
I think it's cultural because we have a lot of seafood in this country. We're used to eating meat and think of that as our protein.
Fish is meat. What the fuck do you call flesh? Guys, I think the brainworm's in him still. I don't think the brainworm ever left.
Today, we have the lowest level of cattle herds in history in at least 100 years. The cost of meat has gone up. We're doing everything that we can in the administration.
Are you? The cost of meat went up because of you. Like, it was your tariffs. Like, yeah, literally, that's your fucking fault.
And to bring that down and increase the size of the herd.
Jonty says Japan's health isn't from eating fish. It's their functional healthcare system. It's both, Jonty. It's column A and column B. Over in Japan, the diets tend to be better than the diets here.
But until that happens, this is a fantastic option. And as you...
Tal says a lot of people don't consider fish to be meat, especially for religious reasons like Lent. Yeah, but I don't consider the magic book of spells when I'm considering whether or not a thing is meat.
Say this has the omega-3. It has many of the vitamins and nutrients that are not available in meat.
Yes. So while we're cooking it, all I'm going to do is I'm going to dump this salmon in a bowl here. If you want to break that up with a spoon, what I'll start to do is I'll start to add the other ingredients to these cakes. Now, don't worry if you overcook this. That's the key here is that it can be overcooked, right? Even if it's undercooked, we're going to sear it in a pan anyways. All I'm going to do is create a binder here. As you mix that up, I'm going to do 1 egg. Okay. I'm going to add...
Okay, so I've done this before. I've done this with shrimp. It's a good meal. I'm not even going to lie. We did shrimp cakes over crackers. I had my family over for it. It's pretty good.
Add a little bit of panko breadcrumb, which is really just lightened breadcrumb, and that's going to kind of pull everything together. Now for the flavor element, I'm going to add some Dijon mustard. Let's go with some a little bit of red onion, some fresh chives, right? So you'll get 2 different onion or vegetal flavors from the onion. And another element that...
So these salmon cakes... Real quick, let's see here. 25 cents per four servings of eggs. I guess it is $2, a little over $2 for large eggs here. That math does check out. No, it doesn't. Is a serving of egg? Hold on. How many eggs is a serving? Because it's 2, right? 1 to 2. It's either or both. On the one hand, yes, eggs are cheaper than they have been before, and pound for pound, they are great nutritional value for the money you spend on. Jassa says that math ain't mathin'. Cheap eggs is $6 to $12. Jackson, what the fuck are you talking about? Hold on. No. Hold on. This must be a thing where you are, but let me look up eggs exactly where I am right now. Yeah, $1.47 for a dozen where I am at for the Walmart brand ones. $2 for the large ones. So this maths. This is one of the first maths that mathed. Jassa, where the fuck do you live where it's $6 a dozen? Did you live downtown? Food isn't cheap? Ah.
A panko breadcrumb, which is really just lightened breadcrumb, and that's going to kind of pull everything together.
Okay, so we are at, what, $5 for the salmon for 4 servings, which is enough for 2 people. We are at, in just the seasonings and the herbs and everything alone, the herbs put it to $6. No, put it to $7. Panko breadcrumbs.
Now for the flavor element,
Dijon mustard.
Dijon mustard.
This puts us at 8 so far.
Let's go with some a little bit of red onion, some fresh chives, right? So you'll get 2 different onion or vegetal flavors from the onion, and another.
Did you just say vegetal flavor? Did you? That sounds like vagina.
Another element that people don't necessarily talk much about is nutritional yeast. This is actually very good for you, and it adds a ton of umami and richness without having to add things like cheese or any of those other fattier ingredients that might overpower the flavor of the salmon. And then I'm just
great for your microbiome.
Wonderful for the microbiome. I'm also going to add just a little bit of avocado oil mayo right here, and that's going to.
But I thought the avocados were what the millennials were supposed to stop eating. Also, 40 cents for avocado. Hold on. I want to look up Hellman mayo real quick. Basic ass Hellman's mayo, $6.50 for a tub that is 30 ounces. Okay. Avocado mayo, on the other hand, 12 ounces, so a third for $8. Why the fuck would you use the avocado mayo? Why would you use the mayo that costs 4 times the amount?
Pull it together so we can kind of pull that in together, and then we'll make the cakes. Now, what people always ask me is, well, seafood is too expensive. Now, I trade in seafood, and the American wild seafood, we have the most sustainable fisheries in the world. I mean, legislatively, by virtue of the Magnuson-Stephenson Act of '76, I think it was. All of our fisheries have to be sustainable.
By Senator Ted Kennedy.
All of our fisheries have to be sustainable.
My guy, you are really trying to ride a legacy that you have done nothing to earn.
And yet we import 80+% of our seafood. We export our bounty of seafood. And of the 80% that we import,
Fighting Immortal says Suris missed the biome part. No, because your microbiome in your stomach, like that is a thing that you have to take care of, and yeast in there is not the worst thing in the world. Like, just in general, having probiotics in your stomach of any kind is not bad. It's why yogurt's good for you.
60+% is farmed overseas because we don't have an open ocean aquaculture policy here. So I wonder if that has a lot to do with kind of the price differential with the trade imbalance, but furthermore, how we can promote and get people to eat more of the right types of U.S.
All right, how about we do this? Wait, were you about to say
wild, and some of it's farmed or fortified stock.
U.S. wild. Okay, so we have to get in that U.S. propaganda real quick. So just as a thing real quick, ground beef is stupid fucking expensive right now. A pound of ground beef is going for $6 right now. Now, technically, you can get it for $5 if you get a 10-pound loaf, if Boots' theory of economics isn't kicking you in the goddamn ass. Now let's look up salmon. $5 a pound versus $10 a pound. Cool. You get the frozen stuff for $10 for 2 pounds. That stuff, that's fine. You know what? At that point, that's kind of comparable to ground beef. Boy, living in a world where salmon is comparable to ground beef makes me want to shoot myself. There's no goddamn way. But then again, that is the Walmart Great Value Wild Caught, according to my other monitor.
Fortified here in the United States.
Yeah, you were talking about the food pyramid. When I came into office, a week after I got in, I got handed the dietary guidelines that had been worked upon for 4 years by the Biden administration. They were...
Of course. We have to take the dig at Biden. You know that this dumb motherfucker was begging Kamala Harris for a job? When he knew he wasn't going to win, He was trying to get either Harris or Trump to hire him afterwards. This guy literally did nothing but chase his fucking bag.
453 pages long. And they were written by food industry lobbyists. And they reflected this.
Are you saying that the shit that you put through isn't also pushed by food industry lobbyists? You're literally doing the seed oil thing. That is a fucking food lobby thing. Like, that's a conspiracy theory that has been pushed by people who want to sell you on more expensive oils. Oil. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. This is one of those pot calls the kettle black so that nobody talks about the color of the kettle things.
Same kind of mercantile impulses that had put Fruit Loops at the top of the food pyramid. And we threw those guidelines out and we bought the best.
Okay, so did they put Fruit Loops at the top of the food pyramid, or did they put cereal at the top of the food pyramid? Because there's a difference between cereal and iron and mineral enriched grain food versus Fruit Loops, which is a corn food enriched with sugar and little bits of iron. You know that those are two different things, right? Again, I'm not trying to defend the original food pyramid, but you're misconstruing what the fuck was on it.
Nutritionists in the country, the top universities in America together for a year. We locked them in a room for...
No, you didn't. You didn't lock them in a room. That's not a thing you did. Everybody clapped too afterwards, right?
11 months, and we said, come up with dietary guidelines that are actually science-based. And there'd been a war on saturated fats for almost 70 years.
So this part is true. This is actually something called the lipid hypothesis. The lipid hypothesis was pushed by the sugar industry so that they could sell you on low-fat yogurts and low-fat foods that had sugar built into those foods instead of fat as a way to replace what was giving most of the flavor. Said Old Gus says, but Suris, the school lunch policies say ketchup is a vegetable. Yeah, I know. Again, I'm not defending the dumb fucking policies. I'm saying that he's misconstruing even what those policies were. But yeah, the lipid hypothesis was proposed as a way to say that like heart failure and all that was so linked to fats and obesity was linked to fats that fats got demonized so that the sugar industry could profit. This part of the information is actually true. Said, isn't ketchup a veg? No, tomatoes are a fruit. Tomatoes are a berry. The reason that tomatoes taste savory instead of sweet is because despite their sugar content, tomatoes are actually full. They're one of the highest concentrations in food of MSG, monosodium glutamate. Monosodium glutamate is a salt that produces the umami flavor, or also known as the savory flavor. So, it is a berry because of how it grows and where you find it, but it is not a sweet berry, generally speaking, because of the MSG levels. You know, that thing that we're told not to have in Chinese food because we like calling it racism salt.
The government had been lying to us and telling us that protein caused heart attacks. There was no science.
Hold on, you sneaky little fucking bitch. I caught what you did there. You said fats and then went to proteins. RFK Jr., come here. Closer. That's a bait and switch, you goddamn moron. I understand we're talking about fish, but that is a fucking bait and switch. Saying protein causes heart problems when your original statement was about the lipid hypothesis is really fucking slimy. Now, we actually do have evidence that there are proteins that cause heart issues. This is one of the reasons why you are asked to cut down on red meat later in life, because there is a negative connotation with those foods because of their nutritional values and heart issues. You slimy little goddamn weasel.
That supported that. And one of the things we found when we started looking at the real science.
Hold on. Da-da-da-da. Let's go ahead and pull this up. Ba-da-ba-da-ba. Just so you guys know, RFK Jr.'s a fucking moron and doesn't actually cite shit, but I can. I wasn't prepared for this at all, but I know where to find studies. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Observational studies show inconsistent associations of red meat consumption with cardiovascular disease. Moreover, red meat consumption varies by sex and setting. However, the associations vary by sex and settings. Even that remains unclear. So to say that there is no evidence of linkage here is actually incorrect. We have evidence of spotty linkage. But let's go ahead and do. Unprocessed and processed red meats are both associated with higher risk of CBD subtypes, and diabetes, with a strong association in Western settings, but no sex difference. Better understanding of the mechanisms is needed to facilitate improved cardiometabolic and planetary health. So, yeah, my guy, those words you said are actually wrong. We do have studies and evidence, but you're going to do this whole, like, the real science. Fuck off.
Science was that when you don't eat protein, you eat something else, and it was ultra-processed foods. And most people chose, so 70% of the calories that our children were eating were ultra-processed food.
Okay, so another bait and switch that happened here was the substitution of ultra-processed food for protein. Now, did you know that you can have ultra-processed proteins? The reason this bait and switch is important is if you are listening to what he's saying and you're just nodding along, everything he's saying sounds reasonable, because there's like all good lies, there's a bit of truth to it. There's the lipid hypothesis, there's the sugar industry lobbying. Like, that stuff is true. That stuff did happen. But when you actually listen to what he's saying, he is very, very slimily switching his words around. In one sentence, it's fat. And in the second sentence, it's protein. In one sentence, kids are substituting protein with ultra-processed foods, which can be a true statement, while those ultra-processed foods can still be fucking Slim Jims, which are definitionally ultra-processed protein. This is really agitating, because there's a way to communicate this stuff very simply, right? Hey, the sugar industry lobbied to have fat demonized. As a result of fat being demonized, there was an entire campaign saying that linking fat consumption with all kinds of negative effects. Turns out it's specific types of protein consumption, not fat consumption. But as a result, people overcorrected, and due to a combination of wanting cheap, easy foods due to a staggeringly shitty economy, and wanting things that they could basically hand to their kids quickly due to a lack of time, ultra-processed foods ended up making it into our kids' mouths instead of things that would have been more healthy for them otherwise. The problem was not always the industry causing issues. That was one part of it. The economy being fucked is one of the reasons you get your ultra-processed foods being fed to kids. Your McDonald's, your TV dinners, the Swanson Company. That shit comes from an economy that robs people of time and money more than it comes from an industry lobbying against a particular type of food.
And it's no wonder that we had a metabolic crisis, and our diabetes rate had gone from 0 in children to about 38%.
Our diabetes rate went up mostly due to the fast food industry that, in order to make their food more addictive, adds sugar and salt to it, because those are the components that make foods more addictive. They are also the components that, if overconsumed, at least the sugar, will help contribute to diabetes.
Diabetic or pre-diabetic. And we had the sickest country in the world. And we got to get people eating protein again, because when you eat protein, you don't eat the other stuff.
My guy, you know that eggs are protein and people eat eggs. Like, the problem isn't people eating protein or not eating protein. The problem is the kind of protein they are consuming, you goddamn troglodyte.
Secretary Kennedy, I'll tell you a crazy story. So I grew up in that world. All I ate was cereal, pasta, refined carbs, etc. I went to a small college and suffered having horrible stomach issues. And I actually ended up dropping out of college and got into the restaurant industry because it was the only place I had a safe haven because my stomach issues were so bad. It wasn't until 2014 when I completely cut seed oils out of my diet and all of the processed
feed oils. Okay, so this is I took a Tylenol and made a prayer to God at the same time. And when I went to sleep and woke up, my headache was gone. It must have been God. not the nap, not the Tylenol. God did it. I cut the seed oils out of my diet, okay? And you also cut a bunch of other stuff out of your diet. Are you maybe thinking, possibly, that it was the other stuff that was causing the problem?
Foods that I actually healed my entire body strictly with diet. That's after they tried to...
I healed my entire body strictly with diet. So, this is also propaganda. This is propaganda from an administration that wants to convince you that you don't actually need healthcare, you just need to buy more expensive food that you can't fucking afford, that you don't have time to cook. Welcome to America, everybody.
Prescribed me antidepressants, claiming that it was the neurotransmitters in my intestines. They tried to give me anti-anxiety medication, and it wasn't until I changed my diet, ironically, after becoming a chef, that it all got healed.
At least it made you happy, right?
Well, it drove me into the kitchen, which was the best thing in the world. So speaking of, I've got, so now I'd done some of these cakes ahead of time because you want those to sit and you want them to actually absorb some of that binder. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna take these cakes and I'm just gonna kind of cake them up into a ball, and you see how it comes together. And you can form them however you want, and then just really kind of dust them in this panko to give it a crispy exterior, because we eat obviously texture is so important, right? And those are the things, you don't pay for these tips, right? You don't have to pay extra for texture. This is just breadcrumbs. You can make your own at home.
You don't have to pay extra for texture. It's just breadcrumbs, an item that you would pay extra for.
So I'm gonna put some of this on the exterior, and then we're just going to cook these in a carbon steel pan until they are heated all the way through, about 155, 160 degrees. You can cook.
If you want to cook on the pan that the poor are using, so that the poor who you are aiming this at are going to want to mimic what you're doing, a carbon steel pan is stupidly fucking expensive. There are multiple types of pans that households will have when they are on a budget. Carbon steel ain't one of them. Cast iron is one of them. Aluminum is one of them. Teflon's one of them. But a carbon steel? That's like Restaurant Depot shit. You end up paying 5 times as much for that. Now, again, that's a pan that's going to last you a very long time. But that's not what people are cooking on. How's it going, Sensini? Said, aloha, sirs, in chat. Who let Robert Kennedy in the kitchen? Did we see him wash his hands? Or are we supposed to assume that he did? Soccer says, why is he touching it? Because people touch their food when they flip it. No, people touch food when they're cooking it. I'm never going to to fault people for doing that shit. I'm sorry. No, that is the silly response.
Cook them in the oven or on the stovetop. But we're not done yet. We're gonna make a quick, simple vinaigrette and an arugula and green apple salad to go along with this. So another area in which people can actually save money and eat better, and I talk about this, I impress this upon everybody, even my customers, I'm losing business doing this, is that vinaigrettes, dressings, condiments, that's what I grew up with. As I mentioned, my 2 working parents, microwave generation, everything was just condiments in the refrigerator and then takeout and fast food. And I realized that not only was I addicted to salad dressings and condiments, but I was becoming addicted to the seed oils. So the first thing I do when I teach kids, our kids, other kids, and even adults who are entering the kitchen to cook is how simple it is to make a fresh vinaigrette. So
there is no functional difference between the various oils outside of a handful of nutritional factors and also taste. Food grade oil is food grade oil. The propaganda industry that is trying to stop you from getting basic ass vegetable oil, so you pay 3 times as much for other oils, is an industry.
do that right here. And really, a vinaigrette is just an emulsion, the coming together of 2 ingredients that otherwise wouldn't come together. In this case, we're going to use extra virgin olive oil and some cider vinegar. I really like the cider vinegar just because it gives it that nice sharp bite. It's inexpensive, and it's also...
It's inexpensive. $1 for 4 servings of a vinaigrette. That is actually a ludicrous amount of money for 4 servings of a vinaigrette. $2 for a bottle of salad dressing that will accomplish the same thing, have preservatives in it so it lasts for fucking ever in the fridge, and will have infinitely more servings. Sorry, this is not actually affordable in the way that they're trying to define affordable.
Also pretty good for you. So I'm going to add that here. We do a ratio, right? So we do 1 part cider vinegar to really 3 parts oil. Add some fresh herbs in here. even maybe add some nutritional yeast. Oh, and I added the Dijon mustard because not only, one of the things I tell people is when you're cooking, right, they over-intellectualize it. Think about your palate. Salty, sour, sweet, and bitter. Dijon fulfills the bitterness. We get a natural sweetness from the cider vinegar. You get the fattiness from the extra virgin olive oil. We'll add a little bit of salt to this, and the sweetness can come from as well from.
You forgot umami, but it's fine.
The vinegar, and if you wanted, you could add some honey to this. But it's a 3-to-1. It's not a set recipe. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this extra virgin olive oil here, 3-to-1. If you want it more acidic, you can add, make it more of a 2-to-1, if you will. And the cost on this, right now, if you went and bought a bottle of salad dressing, it's going to be about $9 to $11. The cost on this is less than $5.
We're going to do the thing here. Let's see here. How much is a vinaigrette at Walmart? 16 fluid ounces for a vinaigrette. And it is $2.53. This guy's fucking lying to you again. Oh, it's so cool.
And it's this easy. Ready? We just mix it up. Let that Dijon mustard, which as I mentioned is a natural emulsifier, let it do its work. Let those herbs kind of perfume into the vinaigrette. And right here we've got a healthy vinaigrette, no seed oils.
No seed oils. Seed oils aren't unhealthy. In the cost to health ratio between seed oils and avocado oil, you're not actually getting that much more health out of the fucking seed oils.
Extra virgin olive oil and a little bit of cider vinegar. And voila, we're done. And I'll leave this in the fridge for, a week or two. It's got pretty good shelf life.
Pretty good shelf life of a week or two? That's not a pretty good shelf life. I have a bottle of ranch in the fridge that has a shelf life of a fucking year. A year's a good shelf life. I'm sorry. A week is not a good shelf life. There's also another problem with this. One of the ways that houses can actually do foods like this for their families is with food prep, by prepping ahead of time, by having a day where they spend a little extra time getting things ready for the rest of the week. This vinaigrette, if it only lasts a week, then sure, you could prep it at the beginning of every week, but just having a bottle of a food that you could just use whenever in the fridge is going to save you infinitely more time over time. Fez says, is avocado not a seed?
But for the purposes of our salad here, we're just going to toss up a little wild arugula. Making a salad is really one of the simplest things in the world, but you could charge $23 for this at a fine restaurant and a nice plate. But when you do it at home, it's incredibly inexpensive and healthier.
And arugula salad? That's not fucking cheap. Fucking hell, I spend $2 on romaine hearts. 3 romaine hearts. $2. I can cut up a romaine heart and it will be a salad for both me and Saki. That is 6 whole salads, which is probably 12 servings of salad, really, for $2. I have beaten your numbers so fucking hard, you goddamn moron.
For you. I'm gonna add some fresh cracked pepper here. And another trick, too many times people throw away the lemon after they squeeze the lemon juice in there, but the exterior of the lemon is full of essential oils, flavor, perfumes, hitting your salad with a little bit of the zest does the trick. And then we'll add, one of the things, especially with me having stomach issues, is, kind of trying to get more prebiotics, more fiber into my diet. And I learned early on that the beans are essential, especially with the breakdown and being, an essential protein / fiber. So I'm going to throw some white beans into this salad as well, and they're relatively inexpensive. If you want to give that a toss, I'm going to pull a spoon here. You can toss it up with a spoon. There you go.
You literally could have just flipped that pan around a handful of times, accomplishing the same thing.
Oh, tell us how you sharpen them.
So let's be honest, this isn't for you and me, it's for millionaires looking to fire their personal chefs. Jesus Christ.
So I'm honing the knife right now, and this is really essential, is to keep a sharp knife, because the best tool in the kitchen is a sharp knife. Actually, the most dangerous tool in the kitchen is a dull knife, and it kind of seems counterintuitive, but if you don't have a sharp...
It's harder to control a dull knife. That's why the dull knife is more dangerous. A dull knife can stab just as easily as a sharp knife, and a dull knife that is caught on something because the knife was not able to go through is more likely to slip up and stab you. Also, the weight of a, say, 265-pound person like me, with a knife in hand, if I were to slip with that knife, and then that knife were to go forward into anything, that it wouldn't matter how sharp the knife is, it would just matter that there's 260 pounds of force behind it. Britta says, how's your new knives been doing? The new knives have been really good. I still haven't used the one that you gave me because I've been focusing on the ones that Tal got me. I haven't found a good occasion to use yours because it's the same type of knife that is in Tal's. I know that the one you handed me is a much higher quality version, but they've been very, very helpful. Did that as far? Mine is a specialty. Yeah, I want to wait until there's a really good occasion to use the one that you gave me. But yes, the red Ginsus have been incredibly helpful. It's also just faster. I need to sharpen the knives a little bit more. I've not been sharpening them as much as I should, but even without like properly upkeeping, they've still been incredibly good compared to what I had.
Knife, then you're going to slide off of whatever you're cutting and typically lose a finger, which is, how I lost this one. but this is also fun. This is what my kids love doing, right? So you always use this honing steel, and then you go about 45 degrees and go away from your body, right? Teach your kids how to do this, and you'll be able to cook faster, quicker. We're talking through this right now, but realistically on a weeknight, this is a 10, 12-minute meal. Our cakes are already done. They've just been slowly cooking on the back burner over here because time is money. Now for the last piece.
He says time is money because we need to instill into you the capitalistic idea that you should be monetizing every goddamn minute of your life.
I'm going to add just some matchstick green apples. To me, apples are, as iconic as apple pie, obviously, but one of the most important produce items that you can find at the grocery store, especially United States apples. But there are so many different varieties, they're so healthy, and they're so inexpensive. So I always like to include them into my salads or all the different dishes. This is how I get my kids to eat. I mean, we got 4 kids, they're in the kitchen all the time. And one thing I've learned with getting kids to eat, especially outside of, just biting an apple, is if the kids cook it themselves, they'll eat it. So
how's it going,
that's
Missy?
always
Has
the
munchies?
joke. Like my son, he hates mushrooms. So one day I got one of those salad knives and had him cut the mushrooms up. Because he cut them and he cooked them, he ate the mushrooms. So nowadays I just have the kids cooking it.
That is a good trick.
Cooking everything, yeah. Perfect. So a little white bean, green apple, wild arugula, that bitterness, kind of peppery. And those are the greens, right? The healthfulness from the greens that typically people aren't consuming day in and day out.
At least that part's true. People don't consume enough green. I don't consume enough greens. I need to go get more romaine lettuce tomorrow.
The white beans, these are canned white beans. I just rinse them off to get some of that excess sodium off, organic white beans. The arugula has already been cleaned. The green apple was a quick slice. That's something I would let my kids do normally to get their knife skills going. We've got restaurants and labor cost is high, so I keep having more kids so we have free labor.
Yeah, good plan.
I'm also learning.
That's a grosser joke than it should be. Like, I feel like that was a joke that was supposed to be a funny haha, but I felt ill when I heard it.
In California, kids can't sue you, so that's helpful. No, I'm just and look, we've got the egg. If you look at the expanse of all these different ingredients, and I think about it in regards to the new dietary guidelines, for me that was huge.
I can't fucking listen to the new dietary guidelines again. If I hear him say that or the word seafood again, I am going to go outside and I'm going to plank.
And these cakes just cooked simply right here. We're going to just kind of put those off to the side. All right. Real simple. And if you wanted to make a dressing or use a little bit of the extra dressing right onto the, there we go. You used a good amount. We did the perfect amount. So, and then just a little squeeze of fresh citrus over at the end, and then.
So salad and salmon patties. Yeah, he made a salad with beans and salmon patties. So is it a healthy meal? Yes, I actually agree. It's got good healthy proteins, good healthy fats. It's not too high in salt. It's got greens. It's got fiber. It's got omega-3s. It's got the shit that is healthy. This is a true statement. Could you realistically do this every single day on a time constraint? Probably not. Hell, half the reason that I eat fast food is because of my time constraints. Not because I want to go eat fast food. It is because despite the fact that I prefer the food that I cook, the 30 minutes to an hour that it takes me to cook most meals, 2 hours if I'm making something like a spaghetti or a curry, I do not have the fucking time.
Just some fresh chives at the end, and there we go. It's that simple.
Beautiful.
So this right here, this dish cost about $5, and we're using wild Alaska.
No, it didn't. So you said 4 servings. However, what a serving is a pretty loosey-goosey number. Your math looks fine in the snapshot. I don't think that's what it actually ends up being in the end. Again, is the food healthy? Sure. But did you use ingredients that were 3 to 4 times an inflated price over other shit you could have done? And did you fudge your numbers all the way through? Yes, to all of that. Looks like he made 2 plates and not 4 plates? Yes. Yeah, I guess everybody gets a small handful of arugula and 1 salmon patty. And if you're hungry afterwards, I guess fuck you.
Sockeye salmon. If you wanted to use canned salmon or even an alternative protein or seafood source, you can get it all the way down to $2.50, $3 a portion. That includes the salad, the white beans, the special vinaigrette, and all the ingredients that go inside the salmon cake. You're going to be eating the quality of fine.
This is just a advertisement for HelloFresh at this point. Like this is how HelloFresh makes its money. That a quarter of a pound is not a serving of salmon. That it says like maybe canned salmon and a cheaper greens, but I still don't trust that price. But canned salmon's going to be more expensive. Like almost across the board, canned meats tend to be more expensive than frozen meats. So he says, what about somebody like me who can eat and then get hungry 30 minutes later? All right, but Sylvie, consider that HRT, when you are able to take it, you're going to need all of that food because you're going to be growing titties. Axo says, well, I don't see frozen Spam anywhere. I mean, that's because it's Spam. Like, the slime would freeze before the meat. Spam's also really fucking expensive. And that's mostly because it's placed inside a cylinder of metal. A cylinder. You're right, a cylinder. All right, well, that was RFK trying to tell you, Brokey, that you should be spending money the way he says you should be spending money in order to make all the food. And there's so many little bits of, like, weird-ass propaganda sprinkled in there. It just kind of felt gross watching some of it and just thoroughly unentertained through most of it. Yeah. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.